In this video, I'm going to show you how to make 2 princess cakes decorated with fondant. These are elaborate cakes with a spectacular finish, perfect for children's celebrations. Best of all, the production cost is very low, and if you master the technique, you can sell them at high prices. Learning how to make these kinds of cakes will not only allow you to offer an eye-catching product but also a very profitable one. Let's start with the first cake. The first thing we'll do is prepare the base. In this case, I used a wide base since the cake will be quite heavy, and I always recommend using a large base to ensure stability. I chose the color black because it goes very well with the princess theme. Next, I rolled out lilac-colored fondant and I'm going to place it on the base. To decorate the fondant a bit, I used a mold to create texture. You can find it at any baking supply store. Now we're going to start assembling the sponge cake. In this case, I used a black sponge cake that matches perfectly with this princess theme. In the video description and in the pinned comment, I'll leave the links so you can learn how to make this type of cake in case you don't know how yet. I also used Swiss buttercream, which I recommend for its flavor and texture. I'll leave the corresponding link so you can easily learn how to make it. Now we simply stack the cake layers, just like you see in the video. Once stacked, using a round cutter, we remove part of the sponge cake where the princess figure will go. The cake will represent her dress, so it's important that the shape is well defined. Next, we're going to cover the whole cake with Swiss buttercream. This coating not only helps unify the shape of the cake but also acts as a perfect base to work later with the fondant. It's important to smooth out the entire surface to achieve a clean and even finish. Now that the base is ready, let's model the princess dress using fondant. If you notice that the fondant is too hard either from the cold or because it's been resting for a while, you can warm it in the microwave for a few seconds. You'll see how its texture becomes much more manageable. And remember, to work with fondant correctly, it's essential to always use a bit of fat. The most recommended fat is vegetable shortening, since it has no flavor or color and helps soften the fondant, preventing it from sticking or cracking. If you don't have shortening, you can use a bit of vegetable oil, although it's not ideal. This practice will greatly facilitate handling and modeling fondant. Once we have the dress placed on the cake, we just need to trim the fondant carefully, just like I'm doing in the video. It's important not to press too hard with the knife, just cut gently to remove the excess. I also want to mention that some parts of the video are a bit longer, and that's intentional. If the video feels a bit long, it's so you can really focus on the details and learn to work with fondant at your own pace. For those who are still learning, I'd rather the video be a bit longer so they can clear up doubts just by watching how I do it. Now, to give some elegant lace details to the dress, I used silicone molds for fondant. These molds are easy to find at baking supply stores as well as on online platforms like AliExpress or Temu. There's a wide variety of shapes and designs available, so you can choose based on your taste and let your imagination run wild. These details make all the difference and give the cake a more sophisticated and professional finish. To achieve a 3D effect and a very realistic finish on the dress, we apply a second layer of rolled fondant of the same color on top of the first one. Now we shape the dress carefully, following the process I show you in the video. Next, we begin placing the details we created using the silicone molds. I'll give you a moment to watch calmly how I do it step by step. To stick the smaller details onto the cake and make sure they don't fall off, all you need is a brush and a bit of water. Lightly moisten each small piece you want to attach using the brush and water, then place it on the fondant and press gently. When the fondant dries, the details will be firmly and securely attached. Now I'll leave you for a moment so you can watch at your own pace how I do it, but don't go away. I'll be back soon with more tips and tricks so you can perfect this technique. I love knowing what you think about all of this, so don't hesitate to leave me your comments. Tell me, have you ever worked with fondant before? What was your experience? What's the hardest part for you, or what would you like to learn? If you have a specific question about any technique or material, leave it down below and I'll try to help you as best I can. I'd also love to know what kind of cakes you'd like me to make in future videos. Do you prefer themed cakes, with figures, with flowers, or maybe simpler cakes for beginners? Your opinion is super important so I can create content that truly helps and interests you. Also, if you have any trick or tip you've learned while working with fondant, share it with the community. That way, we can all learn and grow together. Remember that this channel is a space for all baking lovers to grow together. Here I decided to make some fondant braids the same color as the princess's hair, which gently fall over the dress. I think they turned out really beautiful and add a special touch. For fondant cakes like this one, creativity has no limits and you can design whatever you want. I've also added black roses and others combined with the lilac color of the hair, which perfectly complement the decoration. If you'd like to learn how to make these fondant roses, let me know in the comments and I'll prepare an exclusive video to teach you this technique. We've already finished the first princess, and the result turned out spectacular. I'd love for you to tell me in the comments what you thought of this technique and what you think about this type of fondant decorated cake. If you have any questions or suggestions, don't hesitate to write them down. I'll be happy to help you. And now don't go anywhere, because we're continuing with the second princess, another cake just as special and detailed, which I'll show you step by step so you can replicate it at home or for your business. Let's begin with the second cake. The first thing we'll do is place a small dab of buttercream on the base. I think I forgot to mention that in the previous cake, but it's essential for improving the stability of the cake. Simply place a small amount of cream in the center of the base, and from there, start stacking the sponge cakes one by one. Between each layer, we apply the Swiss buttercream I mentioned earlier, until the whole cake is well covered. Then we cut the cake just like we did with the first one. This time, I used a knife to cut the sponge layers since I placed them a bit differently than before. I tilted them slightly to make the dress wider and with more volume. But of course, that's just one option, you can do it however you prefer. Here I'm giving you two ideas so you can choose the one that best fits your style and design. Now I'll show you how the dress fits perfectly in the spot where the princess will go. Unlike the first cake, this princess doesn't have a pretty decorated dress, so we'll create her outfit entirely out of fondant. I'll guide you step by step so you can see how to shape the dress and give it that special finish we want. I know many of you ask me where to buy certain tools or materials, so I'm working on creating my own website, where I'll gather all the best tools and baking products I use and recommend. I know how difficult it can be, especially in the beginning, to find good quality tools for this type of work, and I want to make that process easier for you. Additionally, I'll offer recipes and courses on the site so you can continue learning and improving, so I invite you to follow me and stay tuned because very soon you'll be able to access all of that. Now let's cover the dress using the same process we did before. We roll out a large piece of fondant that will serve as the base of the dress. If you notice the fondant is too hard or starts cracking, you can apply a bit of vegetable shortening to soften it. And if it's still too hard, warm it up for a few seconds in the microwave to make it more pliable. You'll see how this technique makes the process much easier and improves the final result. Remember that in the previous cake I placed a white layer of fondant on the base before adding the sponge? Well, in this second cake I forgot to do that, so I had to add it afterward. My recommendation is to always place that layer of fondant before stacking the cake, as it's much easier and prevents you from having to trim it later. But it's also possible to do it afterward, as you'll see here. Did you know that fondant is not a new technique? In fact, it has a rather interesting history. Fondant, as we know it today, emerged in 19th century France as an elegant way to cover cakes and give them a smooth, glossy finish. Before that, cakes were mainly decorated with icings or powdered sugar, but there wasn't an easy way to cover them so perfectly. With the arrival of fondant, pastry chefs were able to create cakes with a much more polished and professional look, and it also allowed for much more elaborate decorations. Today, fondant is popular all over the world, especially for wedding cakes, birthday cakes, and special events, because it offers endless creative possibilities. There are also many types of fondant: traditional, gelatin-based, chocolate, each with its own characteristics. Knowing a bit about the history and variety of fondant can help you better understand how to use it and get the most out of it for your creations. Now for the final details of the dress, I'm going to take 2 pieces of fondant in different colors, one white and one blue, and roll them together, as you can see here. This creates a marbled effect where the colors blend beautifully and naturally. Then I'll roll out that mix and cut strips to give the dress a wavy effect. Pay close attention so you can see step by step how I do this process. The result is simply wonderful. This technique takes a bit of effort, yes, it's a little time-consuming, but honestly, the final result is totally worth it. Now I'll leave you for a bit so you can watch the video calmly and observe the techniques I use and how I do it step by step. If at any moment it seems a little slow, remember that you can speed up the playback using the options below, to 1.5, 2, or even 3 times the speed. But if you decide to make the cake, I recommend not rushing and paying close attention to every detail, because there are tricks and little tips that might go unnoticed if you go too fast. These kinds of fondant cakes, like the ones you're seeing here, are true works of art. They not only require a lot of skill and time to make, but also patience, precision, and creativity. Every detail, from modeling the fondant to the final decoration, involves meticulous work that not just anyone can do easily. That's why these cakes are not ordinary or simple. They are unique and personalized pieces that many people are willing to pay a high price for. Even though the production cost, ingredients, and materials are relatively low, the real value lies in the work and experience behind them. If you learn to do them well, you won't just be creating something beautiful, you'll also be able to earn a good profit margin. The key is to offer quality, unique details, and a professional finish that justifies the price. In short, these cakes are labor-intensive and difficult to make, but they're very profitable and appreciated by clients looking for something special and exclusive. Working with fondant may seem easy, but there are a few little tricks that can make a big difference to help your cake turn out perfectly. First, it's essential to keep your hands clean and dry while handling the fondant. This will prevent it from sticking or getting stained with grease or dust. Another very helpful tip is to use a bit of cornstarch or corn flour on the surface where you roll out the fondant. This helps prevent sticking and makes it easier to work with. But be careful not to use too much, or the fondant could dry out. Also, if you feel the fondant is drying out while you're working, wrap it well in plastic wrap and store it in an airtight bag. That way, you'll keep the moisture and prevent it from cracking. It's also important to be patient when rolling out the fondant. Do it slowly and with gentle movements so it stays even and doesn't tear. And finally, if you're having trouble handling it, remember that a light touch in the microwave, as I mentioned earlier, can help soften it without ruining it. These small tips will make working with fondant much more enjoyable and help your cakes look professional. As you can see, I made this princess her straps, shoes, necklace, and lots of decorations like flowers on her dress, all with fondant. I made them by hand, but if you have silicone molds for fondant, making these details will be much easier and faster. So ladies, stay tuned because very soon I'll have my website ready with all the baking tools and materials I use and recommend. Now both of our princess cakes are finished and ready to shine. I hope you learned a lot of new things from this video and that you feel inspired to put these techniques into practice. Remember that practice is key, so don't get discouraged if it's a bit hard at first. If you have any questions or doubts, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll reply whenever I can to help you. I'd also love to know which cake you liked more or what you'd like to learn in upcoming videos. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any of my recipes and tutorials. Thank you so much for joining me in this video, and I'll see you in the next one so we can keep creating delicious and beautiful things together. See you soon.